Thank you. It is 7:09. The Conservatives are going to spend a good deal of time today telling you that Labour is not credible when it comes to taxing and spending. They'll use Diane Abbott's interview with LBC yesterday when she struggled to explain the cost of a plan to have more police on the beat, and they'll warn us that there would be a tax and debt bombshell, as they put it, under Labour, because we don't really know how the money that they promised to spend is going to be raised. That, at least, is what the Conservatives say. The man in charge of the purse strings in a Labour government would be the Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, and he's on the line now from Westminster. Morning to you.
Morning.
Just to clear up on the police thing, first of all, it's 300 million is the figure we got to in the end, isn't it, for these 10,000 extra officers? 300 million a year. But that doesn't include wage rises and training, people have pointed out. Do you have a sense of what the final figure would be?
Yes, actually, I think that's been corrected by the person who made that commentary. It does include the various national insurance and other payments in at 300 million. But if we look at where we're receiving that money from, it's capital gains tax. On the estimate of reversing the capital gains tax that were given away to both the basic rate and the higher rate, the income from that is, well, the Conservatives put it at 670 million.
Yeah, that's what the Treasury does.
Yes, well, the Treasury puts it at 600 million, the Tories put it at 670 million.
And that's a year, to be precise.
That's right, so it builds up to the third year, so we're completely covered on that with actually almost double the amount of money we need. But it's covered completely in the capital gains tax.
And previously, though, what they will also say, the Conservatives, what they are saying today is that you've promised it, among other things, to the arts, to schools, to welfare.
Well, let me go through that then. Okay, let me just go through that. So certainly with regard to the arts premium, again, which was a small amount of money, to be honest, was 160 million. So there's still plenty of leeway to cover the cost of that, if that's within our manifesto. And I don't want to reveal too much of our manifesto. With regard to schools, we will be coming forward with proposals on schools, but the funding will come from different sources. And what I'll be doing when the manifesto is launched, exactly as I promised, every item of expenditure will be fully costed and there will be a funding source identified.
And welfare, is welfare still involved in CGT?
No, CGT, welfare was not to come out of the CGT.
I thought you mentioned it yourself.
No, well, we looked at a range of options on that, but once the manifesto is published, again...
Well, you did say on the Andrew Marr show, that there would be funding for reversing the welfare cuts, and it would come from the capital gains tax.
What we said was we put together a combination of the corporation tax giveaways that the government brought forward, and if you remember, I quoted capital gains tax, inheritance tax, and the banker's levy, and that will be reversing those tax giveaways. And when we come forward with our manifesto proposal, there will be a detailed costing of each proposal. In fact, I'm quite happy to use some of the Conservative figures here, because I think actually in some of them they've gone beyond what the Treasury stated, but I'll match that. Doesn't matter. What I'll do is I'll match the costing with a funding source. But let me just say about this, what's come out this morning. This is to be frank, in common parlance, people would call these, what the Tories have published today, lies, absolute lies. And I'm shocked that BBC has just taken a Conservative press release and has repeated it all morning.
Well, we're just saying what they're saying. Now we're allowing you to have a way back. That's how these things work.
But you're the BBC. You have to have some form of at least analysis before you put something on there. In this tax, in their gap, they're saying now 45 billion. They've included 35 billion of capital spend. You know as well as I do. I'm amazed the Chancellor of the Exchequer can't distinguish between capital and revenue spend. You know as well as I do, capital spend does not come out in terms of individual revenue spend. It's just the cost of the borrowing.
We've heard it loud and clear then, that 45 billion, well, the 65 billion.
Well, it's shoddy that I think it's shoddy that the Tories have produced it, but also, I have to say, I think it's the BBC should have been critical before they run with headlines that they've got.
Isn't the point, the more dangerous political point for you, that if you have spokespeople who go on to broadcast outlets and aren't on top of the figures, that is what damages the credibility, and that's what allows your opponents to say the things that they say.
Let me just say this, and let me give this assurance to everyone. I'm the person who will determine first of all, what the levels of expenditure on each item that will be committed to in the manifesto will be, and that will be as a result of independent advice. I'm drawing upon Treasury figures, the OBR figures, the Institute of Fiscal Studies. I've put all those together. I'm the person who will be identify the funding source, and then when the final manifesto is drafted, we'll publish that in a way that the Conservatives and no other party so far has been able to do. And I will give this assurance. I've got a reputation for being a hard-nosed bureaucrat, both in my professional life in the past and also politically. I give this assurance. Our policies, it is about the language of priorities. Our policies will be fully costed and the funding source will be identified. We'll ensure that those priorities are the priorities of the British people, and that is about having a fair tax system.
And will we learn in your manifesto whether personal taxes are going to go up?
Yes, of course we will. I said that to you last time. What we'll be saying...
Well, just to go back to that...
I thought you would do. We had an interesting... Look, let me get clear, Justin.
But you weren't clear about taxes going up on the rich, because you said the rich are 70 to 80,000. That was very clear. But what you didn't then commit to is saying that they'll be paying more in personal tax.
Justin, you're a scallywag. Let's go back to it. The position I said is that when we publish our manifesto, we will make sure it's a fair taxation system. What does that mean? Making sure... First of all, we tackle tax evasion, tax avoidance, because this government has neglected that. Secondly, the fair taxation will be about ending the tax giveaways to the corporations and the very rich. And then we will have a fair taxation system. And where I identify the need for any tax increases, I give this assurances, middle and low earners will be protected. Why don't you ask the Tories whether they'll match my assurance? On Sunday, I said it's interesting, on the Marr show, Mrs. May wouldn't give an assurance on VAT. When I went to the Preston, I said, we give the assurance we'll not increase VAT. Within 20 minutes, she was given that assurance.
But on personal taxation, above 70,000, you're going to pay more. No,
I'm not saying
I don't see why you can't just say, yes, we'll do it. These people are rich.
Wait for a manifesto. I'm not saying 70,000. I'm saying on the higher percentage earners, you will see that we will be asking people, particularly the corporations as well, to bear a bit more of the burden, because we cannot go on the way things are going in terms of NHS in crisis, our education cuts happening on a scale we've not seen since the 1970s, and I have to say as well, the rundown of our public services. But I tell you, why don't you go, when David Davis comes on, I tell you what my big worry is. Well, the IFS has said hard Brexit means 40 billion cost. The Treasury said 52, but you ask him where he's going to find that money from.
They want to talk about you and you want to talk about them.
Well, I want honesty from them. We will be honest in what we're going to, the policies we're going to produce, the costings of them, and where we're going to find the money. They're not honest about this. They've been telling lies about us. I want you as the BBC to put them on the spot now.
John McDonnell, thank you.